Hey there everybody, my name is Kat Bowser. I'm your resident fantasy therapist and welcome back to my channel. Those of you here for the first time, welcome. My name is Kat Bowser. I'm a licensed therapist. I'm also a writer working on my first two novels, one start of series, one a standalone. And on my channel, I like to talk about what I consider to be the heart of writing. And that's the characters. And the heart of the characters is their psychology. So that's the angle I like to take with pretty much everything I talk about on my channel. Hey there guys, we are on day 4 of Saviors Week, celebrating Jenna Moressi's release of her next book on next Tuesday, The Savior's Sister. So today I wanted to talk about one of my favorite elements of The Savior's Sister, and that's the side characters. Full on confession, ever since I was a little kid, I have loved side characters. Like 90% of the time, I'm gonna prefer a side character to a main character. And not that I dislike the main characters, I actually really do like the main characters in Jenna's stories. I don't know, I'm always drawn to the side characters. And I kind of want to talk about what is it that makes a good side character in a story. And I think you're going to find different answers depending on who you talk to, as always, as with kind of anything in the writing industry. For myself, I like side characters that are fully fleshed out. So sometimes you have side characters that we only know a little bit about them, and you can kind of tell that the rest of their characters just it's kind of a blank slate. They're basically designed to do what they have to do, and that's it. Which is not by nature a bad thing. I mean, it works quite well for some authors. I'm just not one of them. I have to have side characters that have their own motivations, their own goals, their own likes, their own dislikes. One of the things I typically use to judge a side character is if I was to pull them out of the main story, out of the main plot, and just put them in a random, pick a random plot, could they still operate? If they would still be able to essentially develop new goals, develop what they needed to do. Essentially, if you can take a side character and make them a main character, can you potentially work with it? If the answer is yes, I think you have a really good side character. If the answer is no, you might need to work on it a little bit. That being said, I think it is important that the side characters don't necessarily take over the plot. I mean, there is a reason you have a main character versus a side character. So I think there's some things you don't need to know everything about the side character's life. At least the reader does not. I think the author should, but the reader doesn't have to know everything. So let's see. I'll use, like I said, I'm not going to give you guys any spoilers, but I'll use Delphi from The Savior's Sister. She shows up briefly in The Savior's Champion, but we see more of her in The Savior's Sister. She kind of pops up as like the main character's one of her confidants, someone she can talk to. And she has a very solid personality. She has things that she likes. She has her own thoughts and goals and opinions on things. And when it's necessary for her to work with the main character, her goals coincide with the main characters. But you can tell she also has her own goals, her own things that she wants to do. She's still an independent person, and I like that. I like that a lot. Because I think when you do that, then when the side characters show up, it doesn't feel like, oh, I have to push a side character into this scene. To me, it more feels like, oh, we've stumbled across someone in the midst of doing their everyday life. And I think that gives it a much more authentic feel. I think for myself, some of my favorite characters in my novels I'm working on are my side characters. And they may end up being a main character at some point. I don't know, but it's certainly possible. Those of you who've been on my channel for a while know that currently Tony is one of my favorite side characters because he serves as a best friend. He is supportive, but he's also sarcastic. He isn't afraid to speak his mind. He's not afraid of authority, even though in some cases he probably should be. And it just makes for interesting interactions. I think that's something else that when you make a side character, especially if it's a side character that's going to be interacting with your main character a lot, I think you need to make certain aspects of their personality different. Not necessarily opposite end, but enough that you can have aspects of their personality kind of beat off each other. Like Layla and Delphi both have different viewpoints on sex. I'll put it that way. I'm not going to tell you more than that. And so that means that when they have conversations that drift onto that topic, they're very interesting, and they're very interesting to kind of follow because, you know, their viewpoints are very different. In my stories, Tony and Ani have very different viewpoints on how to approach authority. Ani has this idea and belief that you need to be respectful and you need to be not necessarily roll over and submit to it, but you need to approach it with a certain tact. Tony has never heard of tact in his life. He does not think that it's applicable. His thought is, if I want to make myself heard, I need to be out there. I need to be making a scene and making a voice. And so that's his viewpoint. So when these two have a talk about how they want to approach a topic with the council of the city, it's very much an interesting argument because you have two different viewpoints and both of them in certain ways are valid. So I think that makes it builds the relationships between your characters much more fluidly, I guess is the word I'm looking for. It feels much more natural, and I think these are things that regular people do. If you think about it, your interactions with like friends, colleagues, co-workers, I look at those when I'm trying to think of what are situations that I could potentially put a side character in, because I think we can definitely learn from our own relationships and apply it to the characters within a story. I think it makes it interesting. I think it makes it relatable. And it's just a good idea to kind of build your own build your own library of tools, I guess you could say. So side characters, I think, are some of those characters that unfortunately some authors don't put as much thought into them, and I think that's a mistake. I think it's a missed opportunity. Now, I'm not saying that you have to be like me and make a detailed background for every character you do. You don't. You know, you have your own writing style, I have mine. But I do think that this is an important step in just making your world feel more fleshed out, because the more real your characters feel within your world, typically I've found the world grows around it. So the more real you can make your characters, the more real you make your world. So that's just my thoughts on side characters. I would love to hear your guys' thoughts on what you think helps to build a good side character or why they're important. So I look at side characters like seasoning. You can technically make a dish without it, but it doesn't taste as good. So I hope you guys will let me know your thoughts below. If you guys don't want to miss when I upload, make sure you subscribe and ring the bell so you won't. This week I'm uploading once a day, but next week I go back to my old schedule, which is once at the beginning of the week, once at the end of the week. So I hope you guys will stick around for that, and I hope you guys will chime in tomorrow for the last video of Our Savior's Week. And until then, take care. Have a good one.